Welcome to Thinks Out Loud. I'm Tim Peter.
I've been warning people for months that Google could face serious challenges to its business. Those challenges include customers shifting to AI for search, customers shifting to social, such as TikTok for search, adverse antitrust rulings against them that force them to substantially change their business practices, privacy regulations that affect their products and overall business. And now there's a new one on the horizon where an education technology company called Chegg is suing Google using a novel argument. According to TechCrunch, in the suit filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Chegg accuses Google of unfair competition, specifically reciprocal dealing, monopoly maintenance, and unjust enrichment. Google, Chegg claims, forces companies to supply their content in order to be included in Google search, unfairly exercising its monopoly power in search to reap the benefits of third-party IP. That's wild. That is really like crazy stuff. And my concern over the last few years has been that any struggle Google faces could also hurt your business. After all, Google is usually the top driver of traffic and revenue online for many businesses. As far back as 2020, we ran an episode called How to Run Your Business as If Google Didn't Exist. So, is Google in trouble? Are they doomed? Not really. In fact, Google is winning in the marketplace right now. That doesn't mean, though, that you should put all of your eggs in the Google basket. In fact, I'd still argue there's a big risk for you here. What is that risk, and what should you do about it? This is episode 451 of Think Out Loud. We're talking about Google versus ChatGPT, who's really winning, and why it matters to you. Let's dive in. If you're like most businesses, a lot of your traffic and revenue comes from Google. So anything that hurts their business has the potential to hurt yours too. That's not good, right? I think we all know that. One of the biggest threats to Google is how much of its revenues and profits come from search ads. Its 2024 annual report shows that 54% of Google's earnings last year came from search. Almost 73% of revenue and $33 billion in profits came from its primarily ad-driven services division. The company as a whole achieved almost $31 billion in profits. That's $33 billion from services, $2 billion from Google Cloud, and a $3.9 billion loss from its other activities. In simple terms, services, of which search is the majority share, delivered more than 100% of Google's total profits. That's crazy, right? And my long-standing concern is that customers could switch to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity easily and significantly damage Google's business and yours. All customers would have to do is type a different URL or open a different app, and Google could take a 5%, 10%, or 20% hit to its business. That would be bad for you too. If you're thinking of your business downstream of them, that's not great. Except that's not what's happening, not even a little. ChatGPT, as it turns out, is woefully far from knocking Google off its pedestal. While ChatGPT's growth is staggering, it's really not challenging Google's dominance. According to an article in The Information, paid subscribers to ChatGPT nearly tripled from 15.5 million last year to 5.8 million a year earlier. From 5.8 million a year earlier. OpenAI recently told some shareholders, despite competition from chatbots made by Google, Anthropic, and Meta platforms. The article continues that based on what OpenAI charges for the chatbot subscriptions, the increase likely means that ChatGPT was generating at least $4 billion in annualized revenue around the end of last year. And SEMrush data shows that OpenAI got roughly 1.5 billion visits in January. So 15.5 million paid subscribers is pretty good, especially given the growth rate the company is seeing. $4 billion in annualized revenue is nothing to sneeze at either. Seriously, those are great numbers. They should be justifiably proud and justifiably taken seriously by you and your business. All right, now let's look at Google's numbers. Again, according to SEMrush, Google got almost 140 billion visits in January. And their annual report shows that they had $96 billion in revenue in Q4 and $350 billion in revenue in 2024 as a whole. That would be more than, wouldn't it? In very rough numbers, Google is 100 times larger than ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, after Google, is by far the biggest LLM company out there. So Google is clearly winning here. Okay, you might say maybe ChatGPT's growth is stealing small amounts of share from Google that haven't turned up in Google's numbers yet. And it's a good theory. It's one worth watching longer term. It could absolutely happen. But if we check the numbers, according to Datos, ChatGPT's average number of sessions per user in 2024 grew from 0.43 sessions per user to 1.27, so almost a threefold increase. Meanwhile, Google's average number of sessions per user also grew from 11.47 to 14.12. Now, that's much, much slower growth than you're seeing for ChatGPT, but it's building off a much, much smaller base, or excuse me, a much larger base in Google's case. I'm going to keep watching those numbers. Growth for both of those has to be coming from somewhere. What I suspect is happening, though, is what Google's growth has long been built on. Offering customers more ways to search, more ways to interact with its products, and raising overall digital activity among customers. Yes, its growth is slowing, but that doesn't mean it has no way to increase those numbers over time. Consider this. Apart from search, Google also offers Chrome, Gmail, YouTube, Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Maps, and Android, plus over roughly 110 other services for businesses, developers, and, regular old people. ChatGPT simply doesn't have that level of product distribution. I can't say it never will, but it's clearly got a long road to hoe before it's a serious threat to Google's business. That's just the reality of where we are today. For all its growth, it's a lot smaller and has a long way to go before it can really knock Google off as king of the hill. So cool, we can all just rest easy and let Google do what it always does, right? Our businesses have nothing to worry about, right? No. Google maintaining its share still could be bad for your business. Remember that lawsuit I mentioned at the top of the show? Chegg is seeing real-world business impacts because Google increasingly offers AI overviews in its results. And that results in fewer clicks to Chegg's site and a revenue hit for the company. I suspect you're seeing something fairly similar. In our earlier discussions of why Google's loss could hurt you, we also talked about why Google winning could also hurt you. And that's what we're seeing in that Chegg lawsuit, as well as plenty of other real-world cases. You don't need Google to lose for it to affect your business. They just need to drive fewer clicks. And that's what we're seeing. I also suspect that relatively soon, Google's going to increase its ad load on AI overviews that could send you more traffic as long as you're willing to pay for it. As discussed on last week's episode, AI, content, and revenue, why clicks are overrated, you can see fewer clicks while also seeing greater revenue. But you'd sure hate to have to pay for it. That's why I'd argue that your job from this day going forward is to focus on how you get more business from fewer clicks, whether those clicks are free or paid. It's no longer about ranking or driving traffic from SEO and organic search. It's about getting people to your website and to your business, and then driving greater connection with those folks once they arrive. If you think about it, the average website has a conversion rate somewhere between 0.5% and maybe 5% at the top end for the average business. That's true across B2C and B2B, regardless of what your business is. I realize that's a wide range, but conversion rate is a complicated topic. Lots of factors go into how you measure conversion rate. So just work with me on this one. The point is that if you think about conversion solely in terms of people showing up and purchasing or filling in a lead gen form, you're thinking about conversion far too narrowly. And you're letting your website coast more than it should. Because if Google's changes make your clicks and traffic hold steady, or worse, decline, you need your website to work better for your business and harder for your business. It needs to do more to drive results. And that depends on having better content better suited to the needs of your customers. Too often, we tend to think of content marketing in terms of how it helps you rank in search. But it is so much more than that. Content is your 24 by 7 by 365 salesperson, and it's your 24 by 7 by 365 customer service rep. Its job is to connect with your customers and capture their interest. Your website, at its core, is a container for your business's content. It's the place where your content lives so it can do its job. You don't necessarily need customers to fill out a lead form or put something in a shopping cart, though, of course, that would be nice. You need them to learn more about you, to want to know more about you, to engage with your content, to want to come back, and yes, eventually to buy. Your content's job is to facilitate each and every step in that process. That can include getting customers to follow you on social media. It could include getting them to opt into your email newsletter. It could include getting them to share that content with their friends and family and fans and followers on their social channels. It could include getting them to come to an event. It could include getting them to compare your products and services. It should do all of these and more. These aren't vanity metrics. They're indicators of customer interest and customer intent. We've done work with a bunch of companies that show the value of these actions to your business so you can focus on the right ones. It doesn't mean they will all be the right ones, but it's putting the work in to understand what the value is to your business. So my question today is whether you're asking your content to do that work. Are you focusing on developing rich, rewarding, human-centered content that customers look forward to? Are you putting a face and a name for your business on that content, a voice that people can turn to when they have questions? Or are you simply taking the output of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or Perplexity, giving it a quick edit, then posting that to your site? Because one of those points to a better future for your business, and the other is a waste of time, no matter how inexpensive it was for you to generate. The big takeaways I'd love for you to remember today is that one, ChatGPT probably has a bright future, but it's currently running a distant second to Google. Two, Google's changes could hurt your business even if they win in the marketplace long term. Three, Google likely is going to place more ads alongside AI overviews over time that could drive up the cost of traffic and customer acquisition for your business. Four, your job from this point forward is to get more revenue from the traffic you get, whether it involves clicks or not, and whether those clicks are free or not. And 5, your content must be personal, human, and worthwhile for your customers. It's got to work as your 24/7 customer service rep and salesperson. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. Finally, we need to broaden our definition of conversion on our websites to measure how well our content is doing its job. Otherwise, we're wasting our companies and our customers' time and money. Now, looking at the clock on the wall, we are out of time for this week. I'm willing to bet that you might know someone who would benefit from what we've talked about today. Are you thinking of someone? Why not send them a link to the episode? Let them know what you think, too. I'd love to hear from them, and I'd love to hear from you. You can also find the show notes for this episode, episode 451, and an archive of all our past episodes by going to timpeter.com/podcast. Again, that's timpeter.com/podcast. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. I want you to know that this show simply would not happen without you. We'll be back with a new episode next week. And until then, please be well, be safe, and take care, everybody.